podcast. I'm Lulu Cohen in partnership with Cannabis Tech. Today, New York versus New Jersey. It's Monica Werkheiser from Canna Remedies in Ewing, New Jersey versus Jeremy Rivera from Terp Bros in Astoria, New York, Queens in the house. Let's get into the ring. Jeremy, tell us just a little bit quickly about Terp Bros and where you're at, your community.
Yeah, so Terp Bros is a social equity, justice involved dispensary based out of Queens, Astoria, New York. We were one of the first ones out of the injunction to be licensed out of the lawsuit. Um, we're a card applicant, conditional adult use retail dispensary. So I myself in justice involved, which allowed me to gain the retail dispensary license. Currently, we're open. We opened October 17th after a months long battle in and out of court with the Fiore lawsuit and the other lawsuits that were holding up the New York industry and the injunctions. So we've been open about 2 months now. We're a very community-based dispensary. We're a very small mom and pop shop based in a very controlled, small business populated area. So we're just selling some weed every day, trying to sell some more weed.
And now we're going to go to Monica. Tell us about Canna Remedies based in Ewing, New Jersey.
Great. Thanks, Lulu, for having me. Monica Werkheiser. I am a pharmacist by trade and opening up Canna Remedies. We are also an adult use dispensary. However, we're going to be in New Jersey. Even with our adult use license, we are going to maintain a wellness focus. Again, pharmacy is my background, so we want to make sure that people feel confident in accessing cannabis, whether they're using it for recreational purposes or whether they're using it for any kind of health or wellness needs. We want to be there for all of it. Congratulations, Jeremy, on opening. Hopefully we'll be able to do that as well in March. So looking forward to it.
The first question I really have goes to cultivation and the differences in growing at home in New York and New Jersey, because I think that's something interesting that a lot of people might not know. Monica, tell us about what's legal to do in New Jersey in your.
So New Jersey still does not have any home grow laws. They are still do not allow home grow. There are currently 2 ballots that are out there, or I should say 2 bills that are open. One bill in particular is looking at allowing home grow for the entire population. I think, and Jeremy will definitely speak more on this, I believe New York allows for both the adult use, they just allow any resident to grow. So the first bill, which is S353, is supposed to be the bill that allows for anybody over 21 within the state to grow up to, I think it's 6 plants. It's a little bit more for medical. They have a second bill, which it seems that it's more likely to pass for that one, which is specific to medical use only. So allowing medical patients to have 4 plants, 4 immature and 4 mature. That one seems to be holding a little bit more ground within, New Jersey Senate right now. But as of now, there is no home grow. I think it'll happen. Governor Murphy's, he's all about it, but we just can't get the votes right now. So hopefully we'll see that in the next year.
Yeah, so strike there for New Jersey being behind New York. Jeremy, tell us a little about cultivation in New York.
Well, in New York, you can have 6 plants, right? Anybody over 21 years old, you can have 3 mature, 3 immature. But the issue is, since the Office of Cannabis Management hasn't released any home cultivation regulations, it's still like kind of illegal. So New York is a very gray area state. We had decriminalization before we allowed home cultivation or recreational use. So we got into that area where people weren't criminalized for doing things, but it still wasn't legal. So there is still some areas where people are a little confused on what they can do in New York State. We just rolled out the continuous of the licenses, so people are going to be able to file for micro business licenses, which is the only vertically integrated license in New York State. As a retail adult use dispensary owner, we are not allowed to vertical. So we cannot grow, right? We can only do retail. And until the regulations and the final um, permits are set, technically you're not even really supposed to be growing at home. So New York is it's a big gray blob, right?
Right, right, right. Again, another ring the bell there for problems in New York being such a gray area. So we might be even on that round. I do want to go back, and I think this is one of the most important things in New York is justice, social justice, and equity. I think I'm bringing this forward. I want to talk about it early in the podcast because there are a lot of stipulations in New York as opposed to what they're looking for in New Jersey. So Monica, we'll go to you first. Go back to New Jersey and tell us about and specific. Tell us about it, but also specifically as it relates to your dispensary, Canna Remedies.
Yeah, so New Jersey has very interesting policies around social equity and social justice. They are very charged in um, really trying to give back to the communities that were most impacted. However, they define social equity to very differently, I think, than some other states. And I'm not sure how New York does it, but they separate diversely owned businesses from their social equity. So it gets very complicated when we're talking about, first, it's just looking at licenses. So when they talk about licenses in New Jersey, there's priority applications. So you have your diversely owned, whether that be women, minority, or disabled veteran. That's its own category. Then you have your category of disadvantaged area of the state, which basically means it's qualified based on income and health uninsured, and they actually group that into our social equity. So it's either you have a cannabis conviction as a social equity business, or you live in a economically disadvantaged area. And then they categorize a second area, which this one surprised me, was the impact zone. So impact zones actually refer to if your business is based inside an area that is more has more criminal convictions, so a higher criminal conviction rate for marijuana charges, a higher concentration of law enforcement, and looks at like unemployment rates. So a little bit broader there, but that's like its own separate category as well. So it's very interesting to me how they're looking at the policing of it as its own kind of categorization as a priority applicant separate from social equity. And so it gets very confusing because the word social equity is very heavily tied into cannabis, but it does vary. And then when you talk to different people that you're operating with, so our vendors, as we're building contracts with our website vendors, our IT, they'll do different programs for social equity to allow for discounts or maybe an add-on service, something like that, but they qualify socially equity different. So they may qualify based on minority, women owned businesses. So it gets very, very confusing in New Jersey. Our business actually falls under the community, the impact zone and social equity. So one of my partners and the owners, he does have the previous convictions, and our business is located inside an impact zone. So more so on our side for the unemployment kind of aspect for it than the convictions, but being next to Trenton, we do see a lot of the convictions as well around Ewing.
Wow, that's deep. Jeremy, we'll go to you for New York's heavy lean on the importance of equity and social justice.
See, New York took a different approach when it came to legalizing cannabis and creating retail adult use dispensaries. They prioritized people who were justice involved. So if you had a conviction, you were prioritized. They also prioritized communities disproportionately impacted, as Jersey did. If these areas were heavily policed, if they had more convictions because of cannabis and you lived in those areas, you were at a higher point value to get graded when doing your application. But there were five prioritized groups. You had justice involved, you had minorities, you had women, you had disabled veterans, and you had people that lived in the CDI or the communities disproportionately impacted. It was a heavy rollout, and I think that's the reason we got into the lawsuits was because they prioritized people with convictions over the four other prioritized groups. So it was prioritizing more people, right? So that's what really got us into that position. But again, New York took a stance in legalization that a lot of other states didn't. They prioritized people that were directly affected by the war on drugs, by the war on cannabis, and through the prohibition by giving people who had the convictions a license first. Not only did you have to have a conviction, but you also had to have 2 years of positive business. So there was a criteria to be a businessman or woman or be an entrepreneur, but also have that conviction. Um, it's a rough place in all states, right? Because as we all know, cannabis is very disproportionately seized. You don't have many women-owned businesses. You don't have many black and brown-owned businesses. So when you see states like New York and New Jersey prioritizing these groups, it's a good step forward in the right direction. Is it easy? Absolutely not. New York is the haven for that. We've had lawsuits upon lawsuits upon lawsuits since we've created the card program or the decriminalization and the start of the adult use retail dispensary program. But we're standing firm on what is right ethically, right? Prioritizing people who were affected directly by the war on cannabis and the war on drugs, and prioritizing peoples whose families were affected by the war on drugs and the war on cannabis.
That's so important, and it's such a step forward. And there's been hooks. I think let's talk about for New York, we see the black market being a big problem. And Mayor Adams just came out and said, put it in his hands, and in 30 days he'll fix it. He'll shut down the black market and the illicit pot shops in New York. Jeremy, I'm going to go back to you just on this because this is a big problem, and Monica has a different take in New Jersey. So, Jeremy, let's go back to you on that.
See, again, it goes into the decriminalization of cannabis before they set up a structure to allow dispensaries to open. So the decriminalization of cannabis in New York happened around the COVID era, right, in 2020, the same time our governor, Andrew Cuomo, was going through a big scandalous lawsuit where he was sexually harassing his workers, and he had the elderly care issue. So when they decriminalized cannabis, they never set up any regulations on how you were able to distribute or sell. They just said, listen, cannabis is no longer illegal. You can't go to jail for it. So it created this literally this vacuum of opportunists who now were able to get any place that they had, whether it was a candy shop, whether it was a convenience store, whether it was a regular smoke shop, and now began to peddle illicit, illegal cannabis from other states in New York. So now, up until 2022, when the New York Office of Cannabis Management rolled out the card program, we had 2 years of these opportunists selling illegal cannabis in our streets to our children that never was controlled. So what happens is you see one store do it, and then there's two stores, and then there's three stores, and then they just pop up five, six on a block. And now I'd like to give a rough estimate. We have over 5,000 in New York City. There's a lot of talks of cracking down. There's a lot of talks of, wanting to shut these illicit stores down because the legal stores are opening up. But the truth of the matter is the Office of Cannabis Management is understaffed and under budgeted. The New York Police Department is understaffed and under budgeted. I think they have a total of 32 officers that are in charge of controlling the illicit stores when you have 5,000, right? And at one point they were fining these stores, giving them 30, 40, $50 fines, $50,000, sorry, fines. And what happened is they already made 5 million, right? They've been open for 2 years, making 40, 50,000 a day, selling illegal cannabis, not being taxed, putting this money away. And now when you get hit with a $50,000 fine, what I've heard, they're like, yo, it's a shot in a bucket. Like, it's no big deal. This is the price of cost of war. So until we get better regulations that are really going to attack these illicit stores and shut them down permanently, we're always going to have this issue. But it also ties back into the ethical standpoint. Are we going to start criminalizing people who are selling cannabis all over again, right? We've decriminalized this. We've separated that idea that because you sell cannabis, you are a criminal. We've separated that, but we've created this vacuum. So how do we control that? So it's a sad side of two coins, right? We have the problem. We don't really have a solution. And the solution that people are putting forward just criminalizes cannabis all over again. And it starts to target these neighborhoods again that we've already been targeting since Prohibition. So it's a very, very sharp double edged sword. As a legal adult use retail owner, like I'm paying a shitload of taxes. I have to follow heavy compliance and heavy regulations, but yet the guy down the block from me can just buy 100 pounds from Colorado. He can buy 100 pounds from Oklahoma, not tested, not lab certified, doesn't know what's in them, and he can sell them to whoever he wants. So it's very rough. We like to call New York City the Wild Wild West, right? You can go into Manhattan on 34th Street and there'll just be tables with vendors selling illegal cannabis, unlicensed, unregulated cannabis. So it's really become a hard point, and you become divided on where do you stand? Do you want to see the criminalization come back? Of course not. But is it fair for us who have gone through the proper procedures and are so heavily regulated to allow this to continue to happen? It's not. So we need to find somewhere in the middle where it works. Our mayor, Eric Adams, he has a lot of other things going on. I don't think the priority is shutting down. He may say it is, but I don't think the priority is there. Our governor has a big budget issue now with the migrant crisis that's going on in New York State and New York City. So our budget is all screwed up. I don't think she has the ability to allocate any more fund dollars to the sheriff's office to shutting these down. So it just becomes the wild, wild west.
And again, a double edged sword because of the ethical standpoint is a really important part to bring up. And so, Monica Werkheiser, we'll go to you on that issue and how different it is in New Jersey and what's happening.
Yeah, I think, Jeremy, there's some points where we do see some similarities, and I agree wholeheartedly on that. Kind of right now it is very separatist. How do we really feel about it, and criminalizing? I think we'll never really be able to come to terms with that until we do have federal legalization, because the reality is for a lot of people to transition to legacy, from legacy into like the traditional market, it is hard. Jersey requires like 2 years of tax returns, and it's not like people were claiming taxes. So there's this whole other kind of aspect to it that people don't even realize, that that transition for a lot of people who want to can't, because there are still too many federal laws that stand in their way. So it's very hard to say that we should police it when we're not really giving the opportunity for equal access. So we're seeing a lot of the same struggles inside New Jersey as far as that goes. The policing, we were just on a meeting with the New Jersey CRC where they were talking about, dispensary owners had called and said, hey, I have this illegal operation next to me. And the police are saying, how do I know they're illegal and how do I know you're legal? Because they don't have the understanding. They haven't received the training to really understand, what does the license look like? How do I identify illegal versus illegal? And they don't want the headache if they don't have to deal with it. And that's been said. And the CRC says, we don't touch the municipalities. The municipalities are on their own. So there's this big divide between the state governing agency and your local municipality. And Jersey really gave all the power to the municipalities. So our state governing body has really kind of stepped back from saying, we're not policing it. This is you have to deal with locally, which again, I understand. But it does make it more difficult if we're not having that communication on the state level to the local police about just what the basics of a legal or entity would look like. So that's been a struggle. But really, I think for New Jersey, it's more about cost and supply that's going to continue to allow the legacy market to thrive. Right now, looking at PA, New Jersey, New York, Jersey's the highest cost right now. An eighth in New Jersey is about $65. And Jeremy, I did take a look at your website earlier today. You're carrying eighths for like $45, $50. PA, where I'm currently living, our eighths here are $40 in our medical market. So people know that they can get it for so much cheaper than 65 and 8, that why am I coming into a legal dispensary for this? The cost is just not feasible for a lot of people. And then part of that high cost remains for us, New Jersey, just based on supply. We only have a handful of operators right now that are able to produce for the recreational market. We're still under 20 operators who are producing all the cannabis for the entire state of New Jersey. And so that means limited product, limited selection. You're getting the same thing over and over again. And so until we really see a variety of quality product, and we see those prices come down, I mean, the legacy market is just going to continue to thrive, because there's just, unfortunately, you don't want the policing, but there's no policing of it. And again, I feel guilty for wanting it, because again, in opening, I would like my business to do well as well, also. Like us all to do well in all reality. But it's a difficult road when it's, you don't have the supply, the cost is too high, and you can't compete.
And that round, in my opinion, is a tie. We'll call that a dead tie. I want to just say, I want to go back and talk about, your stories, so that we know, where you guys came from. Two really different stories. Jeremy, we'll go back to you and your story, how you came to be a dispensary owner and a cannabis entrepreneur. Tell us about where you came from and how you got here.
So I come from the legacy market. I was released from prison in 2018 from a, give me 1 second. I think I lost you guys. There we go. I was released from prison in 2018 from a cannabis charge. I've been hustling my whole life since I was a kid. I'm a three-time predicate persistent drug offender. I was a gang member for more than 20 years. In this last state bid, I made a conscious decision to change my life. I made a conscious decision in solitary confinement that I didn't want to continue living the way I was living. So in 2018, when I was released, I got into construction and then construction safety. I opened my own consulting company. I worked for Lords of London doing insurance auditing for compliance when it came to construction safety. And then the card program opened up. And it was actually my best friend, Joe, who came to me and he's like, yo, bud, we're going to get a weed license. And I'm like, yo, what are you talking about? He's like, hey, bud, like for real, like you have a felony. You've went to prison for cannabis. You have a business. You're like the poster child for what New York is trying to push forward when it comes to legalization. I, just like anything I do, I go full force, head first. I bite and I don't let go. And what I seen was there was a huge vacuum of ability for people like myself to get into this industry. In other states, again, they didn't give the opportunity for people who had convictions or were black or brown or women owned businesses to get the opportunity. So I took it as an opportunity to really set the game different from what it's been done before. And I just became I got on every podcast. I spoke anytime I got. And I just wanted to make sure people understood that just because you have a felony or if you've made mistakes before, that doesn't necessarily change the trajectory of where you're going in your life. We were awarded April, one of the last rounds. We're a self-funded business. We sold no equity of our business. Me and my partner hold 100% of the ownership rights. We have no VC. We have no hedge fund. We have no investors behind us. We were originally told that we couldn't open a dispensary for less than $1 million, and truth be told, we did it for less than $300,000. It's just proving that anyone who has the gumption, who has the enthusiasm to want to make a difference in their communities, has the ability to. I'm a high school dropout, right? I have no marketing degrees. I never went to college. I didn't even graduate high school. But it just goes to show you when a person makes a conscious decision to want to do something different and they have the resources and the opportunities of people who want to help them, that life is limitless, and anything that you put your mind to, you're able to accomplish as long as you're focusing on the right things. And I believe myself and us at Terp Bros, we're a living embodied exemplifying that.
That's an incredible story, Monica. We'll go to you and Canna Remedies and your story.
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely different pathways, Jeremy. I mean, amazing what you've gone through, what you've made of your life. Definitely have a different pathway for myself. I actually, you said you're a high school dropout. I'm actually a college graduate pharmacist. My doctor of pharmacy from Rutgers. I went straight into the normal pharmacy world. I was your local retail pharmacist that you saw behind the counter in the white coat. One of the things, though, that I did get out of being at Rutgers was at the time I was there, medical cannabis was being introduced in New Jersey. So while we don't learn anything about cannabis in pharmacy school, they did give us an opportunity, and was able to take a class where they just discussed controversies. That's what they called it, controversies in medicine. And cannabis was one of them. So I did get to kind of have just a quick exposure to what cannabis and medicine would look like, but never thought really that would be any kind of pathway for me because I moved back to Pennsylvania. We are very, very conservative to say the least. So I was very surprised when we did actually get medical cannabis in Pennsylvania. And what was interesting was Pennsylvania required pharmacists to be inside the medical dispensaries. So this whole new opportunity opened, and it was a way to kind of venture into something that I'd considered but never really considered. So I actually ended up working for a medical marijuana dispensary, the first one in Pennsylvania, as a part-time pharmacist. And I mean, it was it. That's all I needed, that part-time, and I knew I needed to do this for the rest of my life. What I loved was the education. I mean, coming from a traditional retail pharmacy where I was getting my life threatened on the regular because of oxycodone. Like, I visited stores from Philly to Scranton, and didn't matter where I was, people were fiending. It's hard to watch. So leaving that atmosphere and getting into cannabis, where one of the qualifying conditions in PA is actually opioid like use disorder. So they're actually using to help people stay off, get off their opioids, other medications. It was a relief, and it's weird to think that I felt safer working inside a dispensary than I did working for retail pharmacy. Like that was a very big moment for me to recognize the switch that I needed to make. So I continued on with this mom and pop dispensary in Pennsylvania, ended up actually becoming their general manager, and running all of their dispensaries. We had 3 dispensaries until we got bought out, which was very hard. I stayed on with the company that bought us out because still need a job, right? And it was great working for them too. I did learn a lot, but I recognized that I didn't want to work for an MSO. It's very hard. Corporate America is still corporate America, whether you're in cannabis or you're in pharmacy or construction, doesn't matter. Yeah, it really is, and so I recognized that the corporate world wasn't quite what I wanted. So I took a step back and reconnected with the previous owners and was able to just kind of talk it out with them. What do I want to do? And that's when it's time to open up my own shop. So I was able to work with them, and now we're opening a dispensary in Ewing. It is adult use, but I still want to, again, stay very health and wellness because to me, it's all about education. One of the greatest things and one of the greatest opportunities is talking to people about cannabis, is getting them to understand proper use, getting them to understand that it's okay. I mean, some of my favorite conversations are with little 90-year-old ladies and teaching them how to vape for the first time because I wasn't allowed to do this, and I'm like, it's okay, guys, let's sit down, let's one-on-one. And I think that it just opens up a lot of doors for people that they didn't think or know that they had the opportunity for. So I see a lot of older people who are able to move better. I see children with autism who are able to self-soothe easier or break down some of those barriers to communicate with their family. So it's just, to me, that's what it's for.
Yeah, education again, education going back on both sides. I think that's where we're lacking. So both sides lose on this round. Your stories are so both incredibly different and wonderful. Thank you guys for sharing those stories. I've learned so much. Let's just talk to Jeremy and tell us, you've been open now. How's it going? And what do you see for the future in Astoria and out of New York?
Uh, it's been really going amazing. It goes back to what Monica's saying is being able to provide your community with the right education when it comes to consumption. I'd like to say 60 to 70% of all of our customers are kind of curious, either first time users or users that have been using in the shadows, right? Because of either their job or because of prohibition. So it's compliance and trying to do things for your community, but yet still trying to be compliant. We see Terp Bros as a staple of our community, and we think that we're going to be able to scale and grow to be one of the titans in the New York cannabis market. I'm very against MSOs. I'm very against ROs, and it's nothing more than I feel small businesses should have the ability to scale and grow before allowing these multi-million dollar operations to come in and saturate markets. As we've seen in other states, sorry, it's my daughter in the background. um, Multi-state operators and registered operators control the market, right? And these same operators are usually
where your mouth is. Don't just open a business and say we're all about social equity if you're not actually going to sit there and help people get back on their feet. We want to do a lot of internships and mentorships because there are different cannabis business academies. Minority Cannabis Business Academy is one around us. And so we do want to make sure that we are offering internships. We are required, I'm not sure if this is the case for you, but we are required labor peace agreements and to be very union friendly in New Jersey. So we are working with one of the unions to make sure that we have an apprenticeship option as well. So we just want to be very open to the needs of the cannabis space in our state because it may have started with us, but it's not going to end with us. And so we want to make sure that it continues in a positive direction.
Thank you for that. I think that round actually goes to New Jersey as the loser because you're not open yet. And we give you guys that, and we hope that you open, as you said, in March. We're all cannabis pioneers here and we're doing this together and we're fighting the good fight. I thank you guys for being with me today on the Rogue Arena podcast. I'm Lulu Cohen. Thanks for watching. Take care.
that back for a second? Can we bring that bong bong?
Which one's bong bong?
I already forgot you guys. I don't remember what I said. I'm talking about my bong bong.
Tell me, can you wait? This bone will take your mind off something. Come into my place. I got a girl, so baby, don't leave nothing. This is not a race. When I blow, I swear the stars be jumping, jumping. I cannot be waiting for your love. It's supersonic. I cannot be waiting for your love. Inside the open air, I ain't talking about all the trouble or the making up, and just to meet you there. Try to teach me just one